Well, Mr. Musk, I'm gonna change the way I was gonna do this whole thing. O.J. Simpson's death today prompted me to change it and start at a different date with a different subject, and then go back to my own about being on the Sheriff's Department and how the Sheriff's Department has been trying to kill me for over 40 years as a retired deputy and all of that. Instead, I want you to give this just the first 10 minutes. And if you don't believe that LAPD has also been trying to kill me, why they've been trying to kill me, and that there really are conspiracies in this world, just look the other way and let it go. But if you take a hold of it, I know with your fuck you attitude, you can't fucking threaten me, you can't fucking intimidate me. If I get you, doesn't matter about Joe Rogan and all those other people I'll have on this. If I get you, I'll be okay. So, here we go. I'm going through my retirement back in 1983. I got Harry Green as my attorney. God bless him and rest his soul. Best thing ever happened to me with an attorney. He saved my life. So we're going through my retirement at the time. He says, I sure wish that I'd thought of what this other guy thought of that I heard about today. And I said, what's that, Harry? And he goes, well, he had this jerk of a client, just useless. What's that old joke? Dreamt he was with 100 porn stars and dreamt he was a parrot with one leg. And I said, yeah, kind of a wasted guy. He said, well, that's what this guy was. He was just a joke and a screw up. But what his attorney did was had him go forward, and he filed the papers with the guy saying the job had made him a racist. Brilliant, right? I mean, you can say, and this, and you can say, wetback that, and chink, and whatever. How can anybody prove that you're not a racist? And I said, well, they can't. He said, yeah, they can. But they also can't say that you were racist when you went on. Because if they say that, then they're saying that you could beat all of their pre-hiring conditions and their screenings and their testing. And so you go back and say that anybody was already a racist when they went on the job, right? I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You couldn't do that. And he said, that's right. So here he is. They know they can't fight what he's saying because he'll win. And they can't let that be the precedent that goes forward with everybody, because then anybody, anytime they got in trouble, would say, job made him a racist. He goes, that's right. So what they done is they told this jerk, you go along with the program, let this thing slide, we'll hire you, keep you right where you're at, we'll bury you out in West Hollywood somewhere out in the boonies, do your time like a good little boy, and eventually we'll let you get back on the Dick Bureau. You can be a detective again, and eventually someday you can be a real detective. You're just gonna have to mind your time and do your do your stuff. You better watch out for this guy, though, because he is just a monumental screw-up. I said, okay. I said, well, what's his name? And he said, Mark Furman. Mark Furman, son of a bitch. So, 10 plus years go by. Poor Harry, he's got ALS now. Not going to live too much longer. And he calls me and he's on the voice box. And he says, Chris, you watching this OJ stuff? And I said, yeah, watching things. He goes, can you watch all the preliminary hearings and the evidence and all? Can you, so I can have a cop's point of view, since you're retired now, since you have been for a long time, on what you see? And I said, yeah, of course. So the first thing I see when they're going through stuff is, da 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 da, Mark the fuck up Furman. Well, isn't that amazing? Who's the guy that's the first one to come on the scene in where the homicide is? Mark Furman. Who discovers the gloves? Mark Furman. Who discovers all of the blood evidence out at Simpson's place? Mark Furman. Who goes over the fence at Simpson's place? Mark Furman. Who discovers that? Do you see where I'm going here? Too much of a coincidence for it to be anything. And I talk, and then he comes back at me with his phone box, and I said, the case is over. I mean, it's over with. All they have to do is pull out his file and see what he filed before to try and get his retirement. He's done. He's toast. The case is done and toast. They're finished. They're washed up. This guy's either admitted to being a liar, or he's admitted to being a liar and a piece of trash. Not that hard to do. Well, the first thing they show after that, they show Chung going back and forth with all of his stuff, Chung getting called out of the room where he has all of the blood evidence in the case in Simpson's bedroom, walking away from it, not signing it over to anybody, walking out of the room, walking off that floor, down the stairs, walking out of the house, and walking over to where who? Marcia Clark is. Never signed over any of the stuff, never did. Fucked up the custody, chain custody on the other. That custody all has to be thrown out now, besides the fact that Furman was in on it. It's done, it's over. The case is done and over, right? No, because that judge recuses himself. Ito comes on and changes the rules on Furman's liability and testimony and what they can go. They can only go back X number of years. Well, it happens to be just before all of this stuff started in '83. They can't go back before that. Why is that? Well, you know why now, don't you? Tubin, who's the reporter on thing, goes down, looks at it, And he sells it out. He doesn't tell anybody why Ito pulled the shit he pulled. Harry and I are going back and forth through everything. First thing they do is they get poor tongue on this stuff and they just French fry him to a crispy crunch. Fucking Lee Bailey does a beautiful job setting up Furman, and then they slam the hammer closed on him. But it still never comes out. That case should have never been brought to trial. It should have never been done. There's no way they could ever prove that any of that evidence hadn't broken the chain of custody and that it wasn't tainted and that Furman didn't have something to do with it. But none of that ever came up. Harry got all this stuff before his attorneys without even getting all of that stuff out. They won. Harry passed away in '96. I let everybody know in '83 what I knew. I let everybody know in '84 what I knew about Furman. I let LAPD know again, and everybody involved with them, what I knew. Now, I'll go back later and I'll tell the whole story. About my own deputies trying to kill me when I was very first going through the academy. In fact, even before then. What happened when I was first on the job, about the guys that on the job that threatened to kill me, that fucked with all my shit, that threatened to kill my daughters, and how we all went from there. And I'll tell you that one later. But first I want you to just check on this. Check on it. And find out, go down, pull the files on his retirement. They're all still there. Pull the files on Furman's retirement and how he's still been presenting himself as this like Harry said, he was the kind of guy that would dream he was on a deserted island with 100 of the most beautiful porn starlets of all time. And he'd dream he was a impotent parent with one leg. Let me know when you want me to move forward with the rest of my stuff. Thanks.